You're watching VinylicPumaGaming. So whether you play normal or survival mode, one weapon type that largely remains consistent is melee weapons. You don't have to worry about ammo weight, damage per pound of ammo, or anything like that. While melee weapons lack the conventional range that most firearms have, melee weapons are capable of dealing a lot of damage with a simple swing. Now today, I'm going to be discussing both unarmed and traditional melee weapons for Fallout 4. I've mostly broken this list down based on raw damage output, melee attack speed, and the quality of the unique variants that each weapon type has to offer. Unlike last time, I'm also going to be including DLC weapons that got added from either Automatron, Far Harbor, or Nuka World, in addition to what is already available from the vanilla game. So, without further ado, these will be the top 7 best melee weapons in Fallout 4, including DLC and survival mode, starting now. Number 7, the Pipe Wrench. So originally, I would have told you that I thought that the Security Baton with the Stun Pack mod was the best blunt edge, medium attack speed melee weapon in Fallout 4. However, what you'll ultimately find is that the bulk of the Security Baton's damage is from energy damage, and you'll also find that there aren't really any good unique variants of the Security Baton either. That said, you can get some legendary variants, but I think you're going to prefer the Pipe Wrench. As far as a blunt, medium attack speed melee weapon goes, the Pipe Wrench is the best in its class. You can also install mods that allow for armor penetration, making the Pipe Wrench quite useful up against armored enemies like Mirelurks or the Brotherhood of Steel too. What's also nice is that you can get the Big Jim Pipe Wrench within the first hour or two of Fallout 4 by simply going into the drainage pipe at Walden Pond. The Big Jim has the kneecapper effect, which you will find to be extremely useful up against most creatures. Otherwise, while I would say this is a pretty good melee weapon, if you want the best damage for a medium attack speed melee weapon, go with the next entry on this list. Number 6, the Chinese Officer Sword. Even after all of the DLC for Fallout 4 has come out, the Chinese Officer Sword is still the strongest medium attack speed standard melee weapon in Fallout 4. What's also nice is that it can be upgraded with both a serrated edge that adds a little bit of bleed damage and an electrified attack which adds additional energy damage to your attacks. While the Shish Kebab, Machete, and the Revolutionary Sword are good, clearly the Chinese Officer Sword comes out on top. Now, the only thing that you'll find that this weapon lacks is good armor penetration, which might be a problem up against certain types of enemies, but again, that's why you carry multiple melee weapons for different purposes. Now, the Chinese Officer Sword does have some unique variants, and they're sort of hit or miss. General Chao's Revenge has the Troubleshooter's effect, which deals 50% more damage to robots and can be purchased at the Drumlin Diner near Concord. However, there is also the Sword of Wonders that was added with the Nuka World DLC, and it's alright, and it has the Penetrating effect, which ignores an enemy's resistances by 30%. Now, to avoid spoilers, I won't go into too much detail on where the Sword of Wonders is located, but I think it's something that you should seek out if you're interested in the Chinese Officer Sword. Number 5, the Power Fist. So the Power Fist is considered by the game to be an unarmed weapon, but for our purposes, I'll ultimately say that it is a melee weapon. Like all other unarmed weapons, the Power Fist has a medium attack speed and can't be equipped while the player has power armor on. So you will have to have a nice set of non-power armor pieces to be able to even use the Power Fist. In my personal opinion, this is the only weapon you should use if you're playing an unarmed melee build. I would say your best bet for one of these is the Furious Power Fist that you get off of Swan in downtown Boston. As the name implies, the Furious Power Fist has the Furious Legendary Weapon effect, which allows you to deal more damage on each consecutive hit. Theoretically, the Power Fist would become stronger than some of the other melee weapons on this list, thanks to the Furious Legendary Weapon effect. If you ask me though, the inability to use this weapon with power armor really hurts it. Power armor provides additional protection in survival mode and can save your life up against certain types of weapons like miniguns or anything else with high DPS. If you're not playing survival mode though, the Power Fist is a great weapon to try and play through the game with, and I've done it myself and I've quite enjoyed it. Number 4, the Disciple Blade. So this was a new weapon that got added with Fallout 4's Nuka World DLC, and it's replacing the combat knife as the best fast attack speed melee weapon in Fallout 4. You're getting roughly double the damage with this weapon, however you're also getting significantly higher upgrade requirements. Unlike the combat knife, which just requires the blacksmith perk to upgrade, the disciple blade requires both the big leagues and blacksmith perks. However, if you ask me though, the trade-off is worth it since you should have the big leagues perk anyway if you're using a melee character. Like Pikmin's blade for the combat knife, the disciple blade has the throat slicer, which also has the wounding legendary weapon effect. The wounding effect might just be one of the most powerful legendary weapon effects in Fallout 4, thanks to its ability to stack for even higher damage over time effects. Like the Chinese Officer Sword, and sort of like the Power Fist, the Disciple Blade is kinda limited though. The Disciple Blade doesn't have armor penetration, which makes it terrible up against Mirelurks, and while you can use the Disciple's Blade in power armor, you won't be able to take advantage of the fast attack speed unless you have unequipped your power armor. So you may want to use something else for survival mode, unless you're playing a sneak build, or if you're already using no power armor already. Number 3, the Ripper. So the Ripper is pretty crazy. While the raw damage output is fairly low, provided that you have the extended upgrade, you can deal bleed damage, which does improve this weapon's DPS. The only other weapon that has a very fast attack speed is the Mr. Handy Buzzblade, which doesn't have the ability to inflict bleed damage, but has better range than the Ripper. However, I think what you'll ultimately find is that between the two, the Ripper still comes out on top in terms of damage and overall DPS. While the Ripper has the Harvester from the Far Harbor DLC, which does have the staggering legendary weapon effect, my thinking is that your best bet will be to randomly find a Ripper with the wounding legendary weapon effect. If you manage to do that, you're going to have one of the best melee weapons in Fallout 4 at that point, especially once you've got the extended mod for the Ripper. At the same time, the only thing that really hurts the Ripper is the lack of a truly exceptional unique variant. The Harvester is okay with its staggering effect, however, I think the Reckoning isn't even really worth the trouble to acquire in my opinion. But you may feel differently. Just to reiterate though, the Wounding Ripper is probably going to be your best bet. Number 2, the Rocket Bat. So I'm sure many of you are already familiar with Fallout 4's vanilla baseball bat. It was a pretty good early melee weapon that had a slow attack speed and had some pretty good unique variants. However, after the Nuka World DLC came out, the baseball bat can be converted into a rocket bat, complete with puncturing spikes and a stun pack. It's pretty ridiculous and pretty awesome at the same time. While the Rocket Bat isn't capable of the highest raw damage output for a melee weapon in Fallout 4, I felt that I should include it because it's going to be your go-to weapon for armor penetration now. Since it's just a weapon customization, you should be able to perform this mod on other unique variants like the Fence Buster from Far Harbor, Ceato's Shiny Slugger from the Nuka World DLC, or even the Rockville Slugger and 2076 World Series baseball bats from Fallout 4's vanilla game. Another thing that's nice is that the rocket upgrades don't require that you start the DLC in order to unlock them. In order to get the yellow material upgrade, you will need to interact with the pack from Nuka World. Without these colored upgrades, you can't maximize the damage potential of your baseball bat, so I do recommend that you play through Nuka World if you're a melee user to get that upgrade. Number 1, the Rocket Sledgehammer. In terms of raw damage output, the Sledgehammer is now the most powerful melee weapon in Fallout 4, even surpassing the previous champion, which was the Super Sledge. Like the Rocket Bat, the Rocket Sledgehammer got added with Fallout 4's Nuka World DLC, and despite its ridiculously high weight, this weapon hits like a truck. I didn't mention this earlier, but I recommend that if you use this weapon, play in third person with power armor to get the quickest attack speed possible. I don't know why this works, but it does. That said, the Sledgehammer in general does have some problems. Unlike the Super Sledge, there are no unique variants of the Sledgehammer. Unlike the rocket bat, the sledgehammer doesn't have armor penetration, so you may have problems with fighting certain enemies that have like a lot of armor, so like Mirelurks or even some Brotherhood of Steel soldiers. Instead of armor penetration though, you do get bleed damage, which I will admit is a nice feature, even if you will be killing enemies in 2 to 3 swings with this weapon. It's a shame that the Rocket Sledgehammer doesn't have any official unique variants. While you can get legendary variants of the sledgehammer to spawn, your chances of getting something like a Furious or Wounding Sledgehammer are pretty low. I would just say if you see any legendary sledgehammers that you like, be sure to store them for use in the future. Alright guys, that's going to pretty much wrap up this particular video. If you like this video, please be sure to leave a like, and let me know, what do you think is the best melee weapon in Fallout 4? Leave a comment below. Otherwise, thanks again, take care, and I'll see you all next time.